It's World Malaria Day, and while Jamaica has long been certified malaria-free, the battle still continues against diseases such as HIV/AIDS. In today's show, we look at major strides that have been made in reducing deaths due to HIV. Also, we show how enabling a parent's love can be for a disabled child. I'm Theodore Henry. Stay with me for these and more as we turn the pages of Jamaica Magazine. First, these messages, and then the news.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, April 25. Government will be utilizing technology to curb revenue leaks and national security breaches at the Jamaica Customs Agency. Finance Minister Audley Shaw says he will be visiting locations, including the United States, shortly to seek out modern methods of accomplishing 100% scanning of containers at the wharves.
We have the Customs Agency, therefore, that has to be reorganized and made more effective. There's a new Commissioner of Customs that has just taken over. I've asked the U.S. government, Ambassador Moreno is here. We've actually had meetings where we have formally requested assistance to make our customs administration more effective.
Minister Shaw's comments come on the heels of Friday's discovery of a high-powered rifle, a shotgun, and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition at the wharf in Montego Bay, St. James.
The arms were smuggled in rather sophisticated fashion, disassembled, so that they wouldn't appear through x-rays and so on as the traditional appearance of guns. Disassembled. Quite an impressive stash of dangerous weapons.
The Finance and the Public Service Minister was speaking at Monday's opening ceremony of the 5-day 3rd Annual Commonwealth Caribbean Association of Integrity Commissions and Anti-Corruption Bodies Conference being held at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. Minister Shaw thanked the Commonwealth Secretariat for its support, guidance, and funding of the conference. At the conference, meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness called on all Jamaicans to tackle corruption, saying government could not do it alone. His message was presented by Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of State in the Ministry of National Security.
The behavioral and attitudinal patterns of all entities, as well as that of the individual citizen, must, as a matter of necessity, not support or condone corruption in any form. There must neither be a giver or a receiver to facilitate corrupt transactions.
He said the regional anti-corruption body would continue to play an integral role in capacity building, development, implementation, and monitoring corruption. The conference is being held under the theme, The Anti-Corruption Agenda, Today, Tomorrow, the Region, and Beyond. National Security Minister Robert Montague is encouraging policemen and women to uphold the highest standards of professionalism when executing their duties.
We are building a modern, world-class police service that needs bright, energetic, and committed professionals like you to combat the increasingly sophisticated and well-resourced criminal enterprises that threaten the future of this beautiful country.
Minister Montague was speaking yesterday at the 2017-2018 LASCO JCF Police Officer of the Year Awards ceremony. Corporal Stokely Fagan of Mocha walked away with $250,000 and the main trophy. Constable Hillette Virgo was a close second, while Constable Michael Hutchinson of Mobile Reserve placed third. Government will be training 150 young people annually to take advantage of the more than $200 billion global animation industry. The training will be provided over a 10-month period under the Creative Industries Education and Employment Program, CEEP. With an estimated investment of $779,000, the program is being delivered under the Technology Ministry's Youth Employment in the Digital and Animation Industry project. At the recent launch, Portfolio Minister Andrew Wheatley said the aim was to expand local earnings from the industry.
Natural talent, skill, and aptitude is good. Many of our Jamaican animators are self-taught. However, through this training program, these skills and talents will be bolstered and our animators made more marketable through the international best practices and tips that will be passed on during the course of this program.
30 animators already started the program in February and 28 have successfully completed Module 1. In Phase 2 of the program, local animation studios will be set up to give the animators the option of producing world-class 3D projects for feature films. And finally, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is urging Jamaicans to make the link between their health status and their financial well-being and quality of life. Dr. Tufton made the appeal while citing studies which suggest that persons diagnosed with a lifestyle disease spend a third of their disposable income on treating the illness.
We all need to come to terms with not just the challenges of the macro data that we have presented to us, but individualize that data to the actual impact on the individual, the impact on your pocket, the impact, of course, on the quality of your life. And I think if we did that, perhaps the message would get across more clearly. And the behavioral changes that are necessary will follow.
The Health Minister was speaking at the recent opening ceremony for the 23rd Annual International Diabetes Conference at Jewel Runaway Bay. The conference was organized by the University Diabetes Outreach Program. Diabetes is the third most common cause of non-communicable disease-related deaths on the island. Studies show that more women die from diabetes than men in Jamaica, with the primary cause of the disease being obesity, physical inactivity, unhealthy diet, smoking, and alcohol consumption. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thank you for watching.
There's a long-distance relay that's still on. Many have taken it this far, each leg as important as the next, each challenge faced with determination. Now it's your turn to take the baton. People living with HIV and AIDS and those who are vulnerable need your commitment. It stands in the way of a better quality of life for all of us and our self-respect as a region. It stands in the way of victory in the fight to stop the spread of HIV. Reject stigma and discrimination. Get us to zero.
Jamaica is on a mission to see an end to the AIDS epidemic as a public health threat on the island by 2030. Let's now take a look at how we're working towards reaching that goal.
An AIDS-free world by the year 2030. It's a vision that Jamaica shares with the world through the leadership of the United Nations.
The goal that was set by the UN and accepted by the global community is not out of reach, my friends, but it will take unprecedented levels of collaboration. All hands on deck. Government, communities, and the private sector. We will all have to band together to support this extraordinary push to end our epidemic at home.
The Jamaican government has long recognized stigma and discrimination to be a major barrier to HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment, as well as the care and support of people living with the disease. So the state has been working to address this and similar challenges such as gender inequality and gender-based violence by promoting greater equity, inclusivity, and human rights for all. Development of a workplace HIV policy, for example, sets out terms and conditions designed to ensure that every person living with AIDS is respected while trying to put a cap on transmission. An important component of the work is the building of leadership capacity at the community, district, and national levels. Increased awareness of the issues through continuous sensitization programs and improvements to the healthcare system is giving people with HIV/AIDS a new lease on life.
35 years ago, the world saw the first cases of what would grow to become the HIV/AIDS pandemic. In the 1980s, diagnosis equaled a death sentence. Today, people that are diagnosed with HIV/AIDS are able to live longer, and more importantly, to access necessary medicines and treatment.
In moving from a standalone HIV response, government has created a new integrated national HIV/STI sexual health policy and strategic plan. Service delivery has been integrated through the creation of the National Family Planning Board's Sexual Health Agency. That agency serves the needs of Jamaicans in a more comprehensive and efficient way, providing guidance, leadership, advocacy, and the implementation of quality, equitable sexual health education and services. It has the role of building social cohesion among people living with HIV and key population leaders, and enhancing the coordination of policies and programs across sectors. While the Caribbean region has the second highest HIV prevalence in the world, with Jamaica the highest prevalence among English-speaking Caribbean nations, the country has been making progress. The Ministry of Health's data reports an estimated 1.8% of adults ages 15 to 49 are living with HIV. This amounts to an estimated 32,000. Introduction of antiretroviral ARV drugs in Jamaica has resulted in HIV-positive persons receiving treatment and proper care, which allows them to live as long as someone without the virus. Deaths related to the disease have decreased by 43%, with treatment reaching that same percentage of persons infected with the disease. It is believed that if the country is able to treat all persons who are HIV infected, it could reduce the prevalence rate to almost zero by 2030.
From 2000 till now, you've halved the number of new infections, and also from the same year, you have come from 10% transmission of mother to child to 2%, which is almost getting there.
Once persons are treated and their viral load is undetectable, they are considered 90% less likely to transmit HIV compared to someone who is not treated.
If you are on therapy, you are protecting a partner by 96%. Even, higher than or closer to what a vaccine would do. So starting people on therapy is paramount. Starting people on therapy will help us prevent new infections.
A 2020 timeline has been adopted at the United Nations in a fast-track approach, which proposes to achieve some targets towards eliminating HIV/AIDS as a public health threat. Prevention, treatment, and stigma and discrimination are to be the areas of focus.
For the treatment component, we have inviting countries to achieve what we call the 90-90-90. That is identifying 90% of the infections, providing therapy for 90% of those who have been identified, and keeping with viral detection at zero to the last 90%.
Abstinence and safe sex among young people are being promoted through sexual education. Sex education not only helps to prevent HIV and other sexually transmitted infections, but also supports other development matters, such as the prevention of teenage pregnancy.
In our work to put youth and adolescents at the heart of the HIV response, it is critical to recognize that the efforts, especially those channeled towards education, awareness, and personal responsibility, will ultimately translate to the development of individuals who are better equipped to make good decisions and positively contribute to their families, communities, and nation building.
Getting to zero is everybody's business, a target we can reach by addressing the clinical, cultural, and behavioral attributes that fuel the prevalence of HIV and AIDS.
If you're watching the JIS, you're always in the know when it comes to government information. Keep watching, keep informed, and tell your friends. JIS, your #1 source for government info.
For over a decade, the Program of Advancement Through Health and Education, PATH, has been supporting thousands of students across the island on their educational journey. Let's find out how.
Nearly 10 years ago, Aaron Nation was in a predicament. He had 3 daughters in school for whom he had big dreams, but very little means to make them a reality. As a security guard, he was earning a minimum wage, and his wife was unable to work due to an illness. Even sending his girls to school and providing for his family's basic needs was a challenge. What was he to do? The answer came from a colleague.
I was introduced by one of my co-workers one night while we was at work, and she was telling me how she benefit with her 3 children. So I found it interesting. So the very next day I went to the office and applied, and they gave me a form and complete the form and take it back to the office with information on it. And then after that, one of the social workers visited the house to confirm the information that was given on the paper. And then I was being informed that I was being enrolled on the program.
What Aaron's co-worker introduced him to was the Program of Advancement Through Health and Education, PATH. It's a cash transfer program funded by the Government of Jamaica and the World Bank. Since 2002, PATH has been offering assistance to thousands of parents like Aaron.
It helped my children them throughout school, especially the lunch program was good for me, because all I need to give them was $300 each day to pay their fare and $100 to buy a drinks because they get a meal every day.
With the monthly stipend PATH offered, plus the meals provided under the school feeding program, Aaron was empowered to ensure his girls never missed a day of school. He was finally able to put them on track for the bright future he dreamed of.
Compliance in attending school is a requirement of the PATH program. So if you do not attend school every day, the benefits are cut. You can lose them if the children are not attending school. So I believe that that is one positive contribution that it has made, where besides giving the assistance, that it has said that there must be compliance in school attendance.
Aaron's eldest daughter, Nicole, is grateful for PATH's support. She credits it with putting her well on the path to fulfilling her dreams of being a medical doctor. She's now an intern at the Spanish Town Hospital.
I began the PATH program when I was at Montego Bay Community College. I was just starting college, and so my father received the monthly stipend to assist our household. The PATH program became a more fundamental part of my educational journey when during my last year of medical school, I received a grant of $100,000 to help finance my tuition.
Nicole's sister Marielle, who is now a trained teacher, also got help from PATH towards her tertiary education.
As soon as she was 18 years old, I went back to the office, complete the forms. They gave me a grant of $50,000, so I used it to help pay the school fee at Sam Sharp Teachers College. And then in the final year, I saw one day in the newspaper when it came out that final year student would be granted $100,000. So I have 2 children who was on their final year.
Now, only one of the nation's sisters remains on the program at the secondary level. Just like the nation's sisters, PATH has enabled many students to shine from the primary to tertiary levels.
PATH students have excelled. There's a youth ambassador program in the PATH program, and 16 persons were awarded at a function we had recently, the Mona Visitors Lodge. And in those 16 youth ambassadors, I mean, that's such a positive story. There was one medical doctor, there was an attorney, linguists, teachers, persons who have truly excelled and who can speak of the benefits of the PATH program.
Nicole was one of those bestowed the prestigious title of Youth Ambassador.
Being a youth ambassador, it is a privilege, it is an honor. I view it as a critical role, especially in helping to move Jamaica forward. We're an inspiration, we're a motivation, we're there to drive students and say, hey, you can achieve not just a high school education, but also a tertiary education. We will be going to visit schools, we'll be on the devotionals, we'll be encouraging students. Take the money, take the lunches, take whatever PATH provides for you and make it your own. Do your best in school, get an education, and the sky is the limit.
In addition to providing a monthly stipend, feeding young beneficiaries and providing school grants, PATH provides several other benefits for students and their parents.
We have the Steps to Work program, which is a program that allows the parents of the children to become gainfully engaged, whether in at shops, setting up shops, rearing pigs, rearing chickens, so that they, in time, can come off. It's a graduation strategy to get people off of path, because of course you don't want people to remain on path for the rest of their lives.
Students also receive money for transportation to school, and those at the secondary level are able to sit 5 CSEC subjects free of cost, enabling them to meet the minimum qualifications for acceptance to university. And there are plans on the horizon for the monthly family stipend.
We have been looking at, and it's going to come through, increasing the benefits that we pay.
I would encourage any parents to try and don't let it go by, because it's a good program and it can really assist you through education. So if you're really serious about education, please stick to the thing, because it can work, because it works well for me. Not just well, but very, very well.
In addition to students, PATH beneficiaries include persons 60 years and over who don't receive a pension, persons with disabilities, pregnant and lactating women, and poor adults 18 to 59 years of age. If you need more information on the PATH program, contact the Ministry of Labour and Social Security at 922-9500-14 or visit their website mlss.gov.jm.
A child with a disability has just as much ability to excel in a given talent as any other child. Let's now visit one youngster who, with the loving support of a parent, is excelling against the odds.
Meet Alex Fraser. He's a 10-year-old student of Dunrobin Primary School in Kingston. He's just like most other boys his age. He loves to play football, hang out with his friends, and play computer games. The only major difference, he cannot walk like most other boys his age. Alex was born with spina bifida, a condition where a baby's neural tube fails to develop normally, causing damage to the spinal cord and bones of the spine. Alex's mother, Tamara Brown, has 3 other children, all of whom have no birth defects. But from Alex's birth, Tamara was determined that he would be given the same opportunities.
I want Alex to have a good education. No matter if anything happened to me tomorrow, I want him to have a good education. Can't complain, the children, the teachers, love him a lot.
It's fun having Alex around, even though sometimes it's like he's not even there. He's so quiet, he's so obedient, and he gets along well with his peers.
Parenting a child with disabilities like Alex's takes extra special loving care.
I have to make sure, go to school, eat, because Alex is a very sick child. Alex have high blood pressure, he has a kidney problem, they have to take antibiotic every day, they have to take mineral oil every day.
It means Tamara has to be at school with Alex for the entire school day on many occasions, as there are times when he doesn't have an assigned special needs assistant.
We're always here for Alex's mom and for Alex. She has been a strong parent though, doesn't complain a lot, but we have been there in support, maybe for lunch or any advice that she need. So she has been a great parent. Alex's mother, she never gives up. She really wants the best for her child, and she should be commended for actually fighting to get the best in life for Alex. And we're happy he's a part of us.
I would like to work with computer when I grow up.
Antonika Gunter-Gale, Director of the Early Stimulation Program in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, works closely with parents of children like Alex, especially in the early stages.
Parents, guardians, caregivers of children with disabilities face a number of issues. Financial, is one of them. When you take, for instance, sometimes a child with special needs go beyond the years of using diapers, they have to take soft food. So that means, the blending, the buying of certain food items, So there are a number of challenges. Medication, you think about appointments. The child needs to go to the hearing, specialist. The child needs to go to the audiology. The child needs to go to various appointments. And it does take cash, to care on the part of the parent for persons who don't understand that this is a child with special needs and the child, act up in the public, screaming, shouting, hyperactive, a child with autism, very antisocial, not getting on like his peers. These things can really cause much stress to the parents of children with disabilities.
But you might ask, how can a regular parent afford all these expenses? And are there any existing support programs for parents of children with disabilities?
There are a number of support through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, under which this program falls, the Early Stimulation Program. A mother, guardian, who really cannot find the wherewithal to care, you have support in terms of intervention. You have financial assistance in terms of a rehabilitation grant that is offered through the ministry for parents or guardians of children with special needs. You have the Jamaica Council for persons with disabilities that also offer support and financial assistance for, starting up your own business, advice, and, that sort of a thing. So there are a number of areas. We have the PATH program that assists with adaptive aids, such as hearing aids, walkers, wheelchairs, medication.
For parents who, like Tamara Brown, are unable to maintain regular jobs as a result of having to be with their disabled children at home or school, the Early Stimulation Program guides them to numerous entrepreneurship opportunities.
We have parents, for example, a simple thing as making soaps, different soaps, putting together, soaps that is tested and passed, approved through the Bureau of Standards, selling soaps. So we have mothers doing phone cards. We have parents doing their little craft at home, rearing chickens at home, doing eggs, So there are a number of areas while taking care of the child at home, the parent could do.
For more information, you may contact the Early Stimulation Program at 95 Hanover Street, Kingston. Call them at 922-5585. Children with special needs need extra special parents.
This is how we close the pages of yet another Jamaica magazine. Do stay connected with us on our various social media platforms and check out our website at jis.gov.jm for updates on happenings in Jamaica. I'm Theodore Henry. See you next time.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.